Okay, so Shalom Aleichem to everyone. This is one of the special moments when no one is watching online and nobody is here physically in the room, and it's just me and the recording and Rabbi Nachman. Bezat Hashem, some people will join us, and whoever watches later, Shalom Aleichem to you, and of course to my mother who watches every week, and to Katie. And David and Avital, I hear somebody, I think, showed up. And, there's Aryeh. Hi, Aryeh.
Hello.
And Meira. Shakoach. I just started the recording.
We figured it out as we were getting here.
Mamish, the story of my life. Figuring it out. Feel free to get some. Yeah, El is there. Yeah, El is there as well. Some tea. I turned on the heater. It's not too cold. Okay. So we're learning from lesson Ayin Chet 78. And we started off with a quote, V'aya Hashem lemelech an kol haaretz. And Hashem was the king over the whole earth, or the whole world. And from that, Rabbi Nachman went into, that what is our job? Our job is to reveal the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is Hashem's presence in this world, and the Shekhinah is in exile. Meaning that the Shekhinah would like for us to be connected to doing Torah and mitzvot, and not transgress, and not live below our spiritual level, and for Mashiach to come in the world to be complete. That's what the Shekhinah wants. So until then, the Shekhinah is in exile, and our job, through our davening and through learning Torah, is to reveal the Shekhinah. And then he talks about Ki ein melech belo am. There's no king without a nation. Oh, I went to that was the previous Torah. Okay, anyhow, I skipped one. But it is related to this one, which is so interesting. Okay. V'yiten oz lemalko v'yarem keren meshicho. Okay, so it is connected to this Torah that Hashem gives strength to his nation and raises up the crown, or the keren meshicho. I don't know what we're going to call it. The crown of a person's Mashiach. I got to take this off of me. Too hot for me. Go up, there we go. Okay, so it is actually related to what we were learning before. Because what we want to do, we want to unify the Shekhinah, unifying the Shekhinah and Hashem and ourselves through davening and through learning Torah. So if I just read the first section here, Yeva'er terem habri'ah shekol nafshot Yisrael yitzu me'olam dibo sfirat ha'malchut. So essentially, he's taking the previous lesson, and this is going deeper into it. Torah zo imeshon haverim. Okay, so this is also from Leshon haverim, which means it wasn't given over in the same organized way as some of the other lessons. I think we have something like 25 lessons that are here in the name of the Hasidim. Yechia Yoshua, Shalom Aleichem. Oh, that's JJ. He used to come to the lesson. Okay. So everybody has an aspect of Mashiach, and that is revealed when we bring about the unification of the Shekhinah and Hashem. And how do we do that? We do that through Malchut. So Malchut represents many things. Malchut is straightforward kingship, but also Malchut is the lowest of all the Sfirot. So it receives from the energy from above. But how does a king rule? A king rules through his mouth, or a queen through her mouth. And like I just read before, that a king is not a king without a nation. Meaning, if somebody says, if somebody sits here on the street and says, hey, I'm the king, do what I say, and no one listens to him, then he's not a king. And of course, there are people like that, especially in this neighborhood. But there's a symbolic meaning behind it, that the way that we connect with Hashem is through speech. And the Jewish people were created through speech, which is a higher level than, I don't know, what did we have? We had thought and we had speech. You mentioned it last time. Remember what you said last time?
According to one of the Torahs from the Altar that we learned, if I'm not mistaken, the Klal Yisrael were created or manifest through Dibur, and the nations of the world were manifest through the Ratzon Hashem.
The desire of Hashem. And Dibur apparently is on a higher level, or will reach a higher level. Okay. So we got to Bet last week. לאחר שבאר שכל הבריאה היא לצורך הוצאת נפשות ישראל מעולם הדיבור, after he explained that the whole purpose of creation was in order to take the souls of the Jewish people out from the world of speech, יבאר שהדיבור הוא בחינת מלכות. Now he's going to explain that speech is connected to malchut, which symbolizes all the things I mentioned before, בבחינת שכינה, which is connected to the שכינה, הנקראת כאן על שם ששוכנת עמנו. Why is it called the Shechina? Because it dwells with us. Afido she'anu tmeim v'chotim, even when we're impure and we do transgressions. V'zeu inyan galut Shechina, and this is the idea of the Shechina is exiled. Ve'adibor shehu b'chinat malchut, and speech was connected to malchut, which is the last of the 10 sfirot. As Eliyahu and Avi said in the beginning of Tikkunei Zohar, Malchut Peh, that speech is connected to Malchut. And we have a quote here from Torah Pei Bet in the second part of the Likutey Moharan Lesson, and this is what it says: A Malchut nikra dibor. Malchut is called speech. Al shem ki ein melech belo am, because there's no king without a nation. Ve'ein ha'am yodim retzono, ela im ken she'amelech megalel machshavato ve'retzono letoch diburo. I think this is what answers what you were saying, Aryeh. And the nation doesn't know the desire of the king unless the king reveals his thought and his desire through speech. So if the nations were created through desire and the Jewish people were created through speech, then I guess there's a certain level of clarity that comes about through creating the Jewish people through speech. Nimtza she'ikar hanhagot manchuto, and so it follows that the main ways that his kingship is carried out, eino ela al yedei dibo, is only really through speech. V'zeh perush malchut peh. And this is the meaning of Malchut is speech, and that's all the lesson said there. Meaning, when we say Malchut, we're talking about the king speaking. Shalom Aleichem to Alice. The king is speaking, and the speech that comes out is an aspect of Malchut. V'sfirat Malchut, he keneged mebchinat hapeh, and Malchut is connected to the mouth or speech, tahainu keneged adibor, that is speech. V'zeu nafshi yatsa bidvaro, and this is the meaning of my soul came out from his speech. Klomar, that is to say, sheyatzut nafshot Yisrael misfirat malchut shehi adibor. So you're just going around again. That the souls of the Jewish people came out from the aspect of malchut, which is connected to speech. V'chein adibor sfirat malchut hu b'chinot shchina. And so speech, which is the attribute of Malchut, is connected to Shechina, because the Shechina is also connected to the attribute of Malchut. The Shechina is the lowest revelation of Hashem and receives all of Hashem's energy, as it were, in this world, but doesn't have energy of its own. In that sense, it's like that. It's the same way as Malchut. So what the Shechina, the presence is here, but the Shechina really only has its power when we reconnect with Hashem, even though we're in a place of impurity and doing transgressions, and we call out to Hashem and we daven to Hashem and we learn Torah, then we're reconnecting with the Shechina. So the Shechina, in a sense, is kind of just waiting there. It's this energy that's waiting there for us to use. Kind of like somebody's thirsty and there's water in the pond or a river not far away, but until you get to the river and you drink from it, then the water has no purpose for your thirst until you've reached that place. So until you reach out to the Shechina and tap into Hashem's energy in this world, it doesn't have any way of expressing itself. Gam Kain, and also, Ki nikret kan al shem shehi shochenet itanu. And it's also called the Shechina because it dwells with us. Im nafshot Yisrael, with the souls of the Jewish people, tamid, always, bli hefsek rega, without even 1 second's break, afilu bizman sheyesh behem tum'a v'chet, even when the Jewish people are impure and transgressing, k'mo shekatuv, as is written, Sefer Yikra, hashochen itam betoch tumatam. The Shechina dwells amongst them, and even amongst their impurity. V'afilu bizman sheYisrael tmeim, and even when the time of the Jewish people are impure, Shechina re'uya b'neihem, shruya b'neihem. The Shechina is present amongst the Jewish people. Hu b'chinat eim habanim, and this is an aspect of the mother of children. It's a quote from Tehillim Kuf Yud Gimel. Hainu, kamo she'ha'em holechet tamid im baneha ve'ina shochachat otam. Just like the mother always follows with her children and never forgets them, Keno Dibor, and so it is speech. Shehu b'chinat Shechina, which is connected to the Shechina, Hainu, that is to say, Dibor shem kedusha, speech of holiness, Torah, Tfilah, v'itbodedut. So we're saying that when a person uses their speech for Torah, learning, and meditating on Hashem's greatness, then they turn the speech into a connector to connect with Hashem, to connect with the Shechina. Holechet im ha'adam tamid, and it always goes with the Jewish people, just like the analogy of the mother. Right? A mother, much more than the father, never forgets her children, and never a normal mother. I mean, okay, not every mother is normal. A mentally healthy mother. I guess everybody has issues with their mothers. So a mother, but still, a mother never forgets her children. So too the Shechina never forgets us. We are the children of Hashem. Even when a person has gone far away, even when a person transgresses, then the Shechina is always there. HaTo'elet be'inyan zeh, the usefulness of this concept is be'er morat b'sof Torah tidan, as Reb Nassan explained at the end of this Torah. V'zeh leshono, and this is what it says, Hainu she'afilu im adam munach chas v'shalom b'makom shehu, even if a person is stuck in resting, God forbid, in a place, wherever that place is, afilu be'shafel hamadriga ma'od, even on a very low and lowly place, afilu b'makomot metunafim, even in disgusting places, divriyut. Afal pichen, nonetheless, al yedei adibor yachol lahazkir et atzmo b'Hashem yitbarach. So even if a person is in a terrible place, they can still, with their speech, mention Hashem's name and remind themselves that Hashem is still around. Dahainu she'afilu im hu b'makom shehu, that is, no matter where a person is, im yitchazek gam sham ledaber an kol panim diborim kedoshim shel Torah utfilah v'itbodedut, that if a person, no matter where they are, strengthens themselves and uses their speech to speak holy words of Torah, of davening, or meditating on Hashem's greatness, yachol, itbodedut is really meditation. Itbonenut is meditating on Hashem's greatness. Yachol azkir et atzmo b'Hashem yitbarach. They can remind themselves by mentioning Hashem's name, remind Hashem about them. V'afilo sham b'makomot hanemuchim, and even in those low places, shehem b'chinat makomot hametunafim, which are sometimes disgusting places, afilu im nafal lemakom shenafal, even if a person fell to wherever they fell to, ki adibor eino maniach oto lishkoach et Hashem yitbarach. By speaking, by davening, by saying words of Torah, by even saying, Hashem, where are you in this disgusting place that I found myself in, that can still remind a person about Hashem. Bebchinot ki midei dabri bo zachor ezkerenu od. An aspect of sometimes when I'm speaking, then it reminds me, I'm not sure if I'm translating this correctly, it reminds me very much of Hashem. שכל הזמן שיש בו הדיבור של השם יתברך, as long as the person is speaking and mentioning Hashem, שהוא דיבור בקדושה, which is a holy speech, זה הדיבור אינו מניח אותו להיות נשכח מהשם יתברך. Just the fact that a person is crying out to Hashem does not allow Hashem to forget that person. כי הדיבור זוכר ומזכיר אותו להתחזק בהשם יתברך במקום שהוא. Because the speaking merits to help a person remember, and it helps Hashem remember and to strengthen themselves in the place where the person is found. So the simplest prayer is Ana Hashem Oshiana. Hashem, please help me. You can just say it in whatever language you want. Hashem, please help me. Hashem, please help me. Hashem, help me with this. Hashem, help me with that. Even if a person finds themselves, after using drugs and alcohol and gambling away all their money and passed out on the floor of some bar, and they wake up and they say, Hashem, what's going on? That, in what Rabbi Nachman is saying here, that's a holy speech. And the second that you say Hashem, what's going on, and you don't have to get to that place in order to say it, then you remind yourself about Hashem, and you also remind Hashem about you. Now, Hashem is never forgetting about you. Just like the mother is never forgetting about you. But if you were to call your mother and you were to say, I have this problem, can you help me sort this out? Then I'm laughing because the mother might not be the best person to call. But the analogy is there. That you cry out to Hashem and you say, Hashem, can you help me with this thing? Then the mother, as it were, says, oh, sure, you're reaching out to me, so I'm going to reach out to you. It's not that the mother ever forgot her child, but it's when you reach out to Hashem, then it gives Hashem essentially a way to reach out back to you. And this is now he's going to bring us some text proofs for what he's saying. This is what's hinted at and what's written in Yirmiyahu, and this is what we read before. Ki midei debri bo zachor ezkarenu. And here it said od. Peush Rashi. So how does Rashi explain it? B'chol et shani medaber bo ezkarenu. As long, anytime that I'm speaking to you, Hashem, it'll remind you that I'm here. Hainu kamo she'amarnu, as we said, she'adibur zocheret oto tamid ve'olechet imo afilu b'makom hatinofet shel tuma v'chataim. That the speech reminds us always and follows us even into the places of impurity and transgressions. Now, what's the idea of the Shechina being exiled? This is a concept that you hear in Kabbalistic and Hasidic terminology a lot. The exile of the Shechina, which always it seems like such a strange thing, but really what it means is neglecting being aware of Hashem. So when a person is not aware of Hashem, it's like exiling Hashem. And the Shechina is Hashem. It's just a different name for Hashem. It's the Hashem that we can see in this world. Because we can never see the actual Hashem in this world, because this world is finite and Hashem is infinite. But what we can see is a part of Hashem, and that part we can see through the Shechina. So what is this idea of the Shechina being in exile? Shekasher Adam Choter, when a person transgresses, Sha'az hu b'makom ha'tinofet, that's when a person is in this disgusting place. B'chol ofen ha'shechina shochenet imo. Nonetheless, the Shechina is dwelling with that person. Ulam az dibo shehu b'chinat ha'shechina begalut, even though a person's speech, which is the aspect of the Shechina, is in exile, v'nit alem, and it's unable to speak, hainu she'adibo mishtokek, that is, that the speech is silenced. Kamosha Katuv, as it's written in Tehillim, Ne'alamti dumiyah hachsheti me tov. There's no vowels here, so I'm not sure if I'm saying correctly. I was dumb, silent, while my pain was intense. I looked that one up. Peush, the meaning is, Af she'in yan hashchina hu olam edibo, even though the concept of the Shechina is connected to the world of speech, B'chol ofen gam ba yesh mitziut shen shtika. So even though the Shekhinah, its main essence is speech, there are many times when the Shekhinah is still, its reality is to be quiet. La'asot atzma ilemet, to pretend as if it's not able to speak. V'zeh shekatuv, as is written in Tehillim, ha'umnam elem tzedek tidabrum. Is it true that righteousness doesn't speak? Hainu ki tzedek ze malchuta kadisha. Righteousness is like holy kingship. B'chinat sfirat malchut kanoda, which is connected to the attribute of malchut, as is known. Umalchut udibor kanal, and malchut is connected to speech, as mentioned above. V'lachen amar tzedek tidabrun, and that's why he said, that's why he quoted, that righteousness should speak. B'chol ofen shehu begalut hu ilem. But nonetheless, when the Shekhinah is in exile, then the speech of the Shekhinah is also in exile, and then it's not able to speak. Meaning that how many times do we see injustices in this world, and we don't have an expression for that injustice? Most of the time, we don't see the injustices paid back. Somebody will be incredibly cruel to someone else, and we'll never see payback in this world. So that's like righteousness is not speaking. But sometimes righteousness has to be quiet, because if everybody has free will, and if everybody were doing everything right, then the righteousness itself would speak through our actions. But the fact that we're all transgressing in one way or another, and we're not doing everything to our fullest, which I think is nearly impossible to do anyhow, so not that somebody should make themselves crazy over that, then that is an aspect of the Shekhinah being quiet, because the Shekhinah expresses itself through us. So when we're speaking, davening, doing what we're supposed to, then the Shekhinah is, in a sense, being spoken through us, through our actions. In the same way, if we see somebody that needs to be helped, and we're not helping that person, that we are creating a situation where the Shekhinah is quiet. So I just thought of something. At work, I get very little time to watch anything. I try to watch a couple of things just to distract myself from the work. And there's this Australian lady on Sky News, Rita something, some Indian something. She's quite famous in Australia. And she likes to talk about how crazy America is, like crazy, and the progressives are crazy in America. And she showed this clip, apparently it's from yesterday, of a woman on the subway in New York, who this black guy that looked like he was dressed as a woman, a very strange looking guy, came over and just put his arm around this woman and threatened her. And everybody on the train is keeping their distance, and the woman is shaking. Like, people are recording this. I think I saw somebody on a phone. I hope she was calling the police. This woman was shaking. She was saying, please help me, and nobody was helping her. So I don't know what happened in the end. In the end, the guy let her go. And then this woman's comment was that, look at what's happened. People aren't willing to get up and help this woman. When you have a situation like that the not getting up and helping this woman is the silence of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is crying out, get up and help this woman. So when a person gets up and helps the woman, then they are giving the Shekhinah a voice. But when a person does nothing, then they're causing the Shekhinah to be ilem, to be mute. And this is causing damage to the Shekhinah. Shemekivan sheina yachol la'azov otanu ki hi im habanim, because the Shekhinah can't leave us, because it's the mother of the children. V'hi shochenet itanu afilu b'makom how do you say that? Tomatenu. Even tumatenu, even in the place of our impurity. So meaning that even when we're doing something wrong, or even when we're not doing what we're supposed to do right, the Shekhinah is still with us. So the Shekhinah is suffering in a sense, because the Shekhinah wants us to be doing things in the right way. שזהו גלות השכינה, זה גלות בשבילה. This is exile for the Shechina. ואנחנו גורמים לה להיות נעלמת דומיה השחתי מטוב. And we cause it to be dumb, silent, while its pain was intense. כי נעשית כביכול אילמת בגלות, because we've caused it to be dumb, meaning not speaking, in exile. ואין היא מעוררת את האדם לדבר דיבורי קדושה, and it doesn't allow her to inspire a person or awaken a person to speak holy words, עד שיתעורר מעצמו, until a person comes to this awareness on their own. So you can picture it, the Shechina is waiting there, hoping all the time. It's always against our will. It's in our body, it's with us in this world, but the whole time it wants to pull us back towards Hashem. It wants to reconnect us with Hashem. But we, in our human nature, we do all the things that we do, and we cause the Shechina suffering, but we also cause the Shechina pleasure when we do things in the right way. So it's going back and forth, but it's an energy that's always pulling towards the good and the positive, and no matter what, it's going to be with us. ולכן במה שפגם חטב לגרום לשכינה להיות כביכול אילמת. And so what was this damage that we did with our transgressions to cause the Shechina to be, as it were, incapable of speaking? יתקן היינו על ידי העשייה וידוי דברים. So how do we fix this? We fix it through confessing our transgressions. Sheyotzi piv. That when we transgress, when we say Ashamnu, Baganu, Gazalnu, and all the things that we just say to Hashem, I really wish I hadn't turned the lights on and off on Shabbos, or I wish I hadn't eaten the thing that I wasn't sure it was kosher, or I wish I hadn't missed the minyan, or missed davening, or whatever it is. Then the second we say those things, we're bringing a fixing to it. And it has to come out through our mouth. So when it goes from our thinking to our speech, then that's already making a change in the world. B'itoerut me'atzmo, this is an inspiration or an awareness that comes from its own. Divrei charata al chatav, a person regrets their transgressions. V'yeferet achataim u'mitcharet aleim, a person should go into detail of what they did wrong, and then regret those things. And through this we fix the power of speech of the Shechina. As it says about the idea of doing tshuva, take with you your speech. שיתוודד תמיד בכל ליבו נוכח פני Hashem. That a person should confess always for all of the things going on in their heart, and they should do it in the presence of Hashem. Azai al yedei ze v'shuvu el Hashem. And then a person will return to Hashem by doing this. So when a person talks to Hashem, they say, Hashem, I did this wrong, I did that wrong, and I wish I would do things right, and I wish I wouldn't do things like that. That is the fixing, and that allows us to return to Hashem. V'yashuvu kol hadvarim hadiburim shepagam bahem el shorsho. And we will return all of the things that we damaged, all of the words that we damaged, to its source. Hainu sha'ashchina kedusha shehi kol hadiburim, that the holy Shechina, which is all of the speech in the world, Teitzei me'agalut, will come out of the exile, v'tashuv el mekoma v'shulsham, return to its place and its root. That is by us speaking and doing tshuva, regretting our actions. V'zeu, and this is the aspect of b'chinat yichud kudsha b'ichud shchintei, the unification yichud HaKadosh Baruch Hu im shchinato, the unification of Hashem and His Shechina, Hanaaseh al yedei vidui dvarim, that comes about through us confessing our transgressions through speech. כי בשעת הטומאה והחטא, because in the time of impurity and transgressions, שהשכינה בגלות, when the Shechina is in exile, אז אין כביכול ייחוד, חס ושלום. Then, as it were, there's no unification, as it were. ועתה על ידי וידוי דברים זוכה ושובו אל השם. And then through a person doing tshuva, through speech, brings about the reunification of Hashem and the Shechina. כי מאחד הדיבור שהוא בחינת השכינה כנ"ל, because the person unifies their thought, their speech, which is the aspect of the Shechina, through admitting transgressions and regretting them. Umashiva Hashem, and that causes a person to come back to Hashem. שגורם ייחוד והתקשורת של ספירת המלכות עם הספירות שמעליה. That causes a unification and connection with the attribute of Malchut with the other attributes that are above it. כי השכינה יוצאת מהגלות וחוזרת אל מקורה ושורשה. Because the Shechina then goes out of exile and is returned to its place and its root. Any questions before I keep going? A little bit more? Okay. לאחר שבאר שעל ידי וידוי דברים מתקן את הדיבור וגורם ייחוד קודשא בריחו שכינתי, after he explained that by confessing through speech, we repair the speech and we cause a unification of Hashem and the Shechina, Yevaer is going to explain שעל ידי זה מתגלה כבוד השם בעולם. Through this, a person reveals Hashem's presence in the world. וזהו בחינת גילוי מלכותו יתברך. And this is the revelation of Hashem's presence, which is the opposite of the exile of the Shechina. So we're causing the exile of the Shechina in one way, and we're causing Hashem's presence to be revealed in the other way, depending on what we do in our actions. וזהו גם כן שאמר כתוב על הגאולה העתידה. And this is also what it says about the future redemption. שאז תצא השכינה לגמרי מהגלות. Then the Shechina will be completely removed from the exile. ונגלה כבוד Hashem, and Hashem's glory will be revealed in the world. וראו כל בשר יחדיו כי פי Hashem דיבר. And everybody will see that Hashem's speech is being spoken in this world. היינו, that is to say, שמייחד הדיבור שהוא בחינת פה, שהיא השכינה עם Hashem, מבחינת הספירות העליונות, that is through speech, are choosing to use our speech for davening and learning Torah and connecting with Hashem, then we use that peh, the mouth, to create the unification of the Shechina, which is Malchut, which is the lowest of the attributes, with the supernal attributes, which is Hashem. Shehu Yichud which is the unification of Hashem and the Shechina as mentioned above. Azai mitkayem v'nikla kavod Hashem ba'olam, and that's how we bring Hashem's presence into the world. Kavod zo Shechina. Kavod, glory or honor, is connected to the Shechina. Kanoda, as it says in the Zohar, hainu shenitkale v'nitkadem ha'arat Hashechina. That is, through our speech, we are able to increase the light and the presence of the Shechina and the revelation of the Shechina, she b'chinat sfirat malchut, which is connected to malchut, ki akshav, because now, shehi begalut, niktan ora v'nechlash kocha, shen sfirat malchut, because now that the Shechina is in exile, its light has been made smaller and its power has been weakened. K'mo shekatuv b'Zohar Kadosh, as written in the Holy Zohar, she'ashchina tzuvachat, that the Shechina is shouting, samchuni be'ashishot v'chulei radfeni betapuchim. Do you know the word ashishot? No, I had to look it up. It means raisin cakes. I would never have guessed. If it was on Safaria, so I'm trusting that it's really what it means. It says the samchuni ba'ashishot, I guess, cover me with raisin cakes. This is from Shir HaShirim. And chase me with apples. Ki Ki cholat ahava ani, because I'm lovesick. I guess it's just a way of saying that instead of ignoring me, cover me with sweets and tasty things, because I really want to love you, meaning Hashem wants to love us, but we're bringing sour stuff and bitter stuff, and he wants us to bring sweet stuff instead. Hainu she'ani chole mechimat ahavat Yisrael. That is, Hashem is saying that I'm sick because I love the Jewish people so much. She'ani shochen itam afilo betoch tumatam. That I dwell with them even when they're transgressing and they're impure. Zeu gelut Shechina, and this is the exile. The Shechina v'Shechina tzavachat, and the Shechina is yelling, v'yis mechuha v'yotziha me'agalut, that we should pull her out of the exile, v'tachzor v'tityached im hasfirot sheme'aleha, and that we should pull it out and reunify it with the attributes that are above it. Avan kamo she'amu hatikun hazeh shebema pgam yitaken. But as it says, how do we fix this? Al yedei sheyitaken partzuf abinyan haruchani shel hamalchut al yedei sheyaseh vidur dvarim. How do we fix this? By fixing the face, which is the spiritual construction. So these are kabalistic terms. The spiritual construction of Malchut. And how do we do that? We do that by verbally admitting our transgressions. V'yached hadibor shehu b'chinat Malchut b'chinat Shechina im Hashem v'yitkale v'yitkaden ora shel partzuf Malchut. So by doing this, we're going to bring the Shechina, more of the presence of the Shechina into this world. By saying, by working on fixing ourselves. So, for example, picture a person that never figures out why they can't handle things in life, and instead just goes and smokes pot or smokes cigarettes, as opposed to a person who sits down and says, okay, I'm not going to touch those things. I'm going to figure out what is triggering me, what is bothering me so much. That figuring that out creates a tikkun, creates a fixing. And so too, when we in this world say, Hashem, I'm not doing the things that I want to do, I'm trying to figure out how to do it better, that's what brings the tikkun. V'zeu katuv. Okay, so now he's bringing some more quotes here from the Zohar, which is not so simple. But then it brings a person, so it says, when a person does this fixing, which we talk about our transgressions, and we speak them out loud, Yechol lechiyot ki shoev chayim mimidat hamalchut shehu shorsho kanal. This causes a person to live because they're drawing life from the attribute of malchut, which is the root. As was explained above, Sfirat Malchut shehu shoresh nafshot Yisrael, that the souls of the Jewish people come from the attribute of malchut. But achen nafshot Yisrael mekablot mimena et chiyutam, and that's why the Jewish people receive their sustenance from Malchut. V'davar hazeh na'aseh al yedei she'nafshot Yisrael motziot otam me'agalut metaknot ota, and that's how through this speaking the Jewish people are able to pull their souls and the Shechina out of exile and to fix it. Shetiyeh re'uya liyichud, that it should be fitting for unification. And when it receives abundance and light or inspiration from this unification, inotenet gam lanu chayim, it also gives us life. Okay, so it's intense. What can I say? When we get to these Kabbalistic ideas, but you always have to keep the big picture. What he's trying to say. He's trying to say that Hashem always wants us coming closer. That he created this world in a way that allows us to come closer. And the energy of the Shekhinah is constantly saying, come closer, come closer, come closer. And when we make a decision on our own, we don't have to get thrown off of a mountain or fall off of a tree or, hit by, God forbid, something to wake us up. We just come to the conclusion on our own, then we bring the Shekhinah out of exile again and again and again. Okay, so I had a hard time finding a story, mainly because my work is very intense and I don't always have the time. I'll just tell you, let's see if I can even remember, a short story of the Baba Sali. So this is the last story that appears on the podcast. So I know some people that watch the class listen to the podcast. So Baba Sali, his yard site is on Daled Shvat. And Reb Zusha, I think, is right now. Now is Bet. Or now we're in Gimel already? I don't know. Yesterday was Rosh Chodesh, so we're in Bet. Now it's nighttime. Now it's Gimel. I don't know. Whatever. So in between, this is a crazy story. So a policeman comes to Baba Sali's house. Baba Sali means praying father. So he comes to Baba Sali's house on Shabbos, on Friday night. And he says, you owe a debt. And apparently someone in the family, or maybe Baba Sali, somebody in the family had forgot to pay some debt. And the policeman came to collect the debt on Friday night. So they said to him, listen, it's Shabbat, and there's a holy rabbi here. There's no way he's going to touch money on Shabbat, so come back after Shabbat. And he said, no, I'm here to collect the money. I want the money. Give me the money. Now, I'm guessing this was in the 60s or 70s, and really Israeli society has gone through a big change when it comes to religion. Not everybody, but the general society. And I think that most policemen would understand at this point that you're not going to get money from somebody on Shabbos. They wouldn't come. But back then, there was a lot of anti-religious attitudes and not as much respect for religious people as maybe there is today. So he said no. So they called Baba Sali. They told him the situation. So he goes to the policeman. He says, Your Highness, sir, please, with all due respect, it's now Shabbat. There's no way anyone here is touching any money. He said, I don't care. I'm not leaving till you give me the money. So he said, you can stand there all you want. You're not getting any money. He said, you're going to give me the money? You're going to give me the money? So Baba Sali said to him, listen, I'm going to warn you one more time. If you don't stop, you're going to regret it. He said, I want the money. I'm not leaving here till I get the money. At that point, he froze like a statue. Couldn't speak. Now, the amazing thing with Baba Sali is he died in 1984. There are lots of eyewitnesses, and this was told by an eyewitness that was there. He stood there frozen the entire Shabbat until Baba Sali made Havdalah. And then he gave him the money, and then the policeman could leave. Now, there's these amazing stories about Baba Sali. There's stories that he had like this bottle that, like a bottle of water, but it was in a paper bag, and it was arak. And he kept pouring it, and he clearly poured more than there was in the bottle. And it kept going and going and going. And people I have a whole book of these stories, so there's all these stories. Somebody would want to just take a picture of Baba Sali, but he didn't want his picture taken, and the camera wouldn't work. And the guy would turn to the side and go like this, and the camera worked fine. And he'd look at Baba Sali, and the camera wouldn't work. And there's straightforward, magic, beyond this world stuff. And this isn't, old stuff. This is recent stuff, relatively recent stuff with recordings and all of that. And you could ask, okay, well, why is Hashem doing this? Hashem brought people like Baba Sali and the Lubavitch Rebbe into the world so that we know that Hashem is real. Because no human could ever explain how something like a holy man like Baba Sali could be doing what he was doing if it wasn't from Hashem. And if you were to ask him himself, he would tell you, of course, it's Hashem. Thank you everyone for listening. I can never turn it off because it's a slow connection.